Okay, we are live. Okay, so who do we have on so far on our in chat? We've got Richard Grace, who signed on first, says howdy. Cameron Gillis, which is actually on with us right now, but I'm in Cesar Brolo. Hi, everybody. Martin Eastburn, new speaker today. Howdy, all. Mike Wiesner, another day, another exciting Explore Alliance show. I like that, Mike. That's really great. Pekka, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, from South Crystal Clear, Stockholm again. That's awesome. Harold Locke says, good afternoon. Cesar Brolo comments, a great GSP last night. Yeah, it was fun. It was good. And Pekka says, yes, it was so great night that I could count sleep. I count sleep after it. Right now, I'm a little dizzy. Oh, you couldn't sleep. Well, hello, everybody. It's Scott Roberts here with Annie and Kent and Cameron, and we're all here to give you our Wednesday afternoon wonderland of astronomy, and not just astronomy though. We're gonna focus on the birds, I think, today. So, which is going to be cool. We had a great global star party last night. It was a lot of fun, with Pekka Hautala came in right at the last moment. I thought I was going to lose him for that show, but he came in, swooped in, and shared with us what he was doing with his balcony observatory complex that he's got going on, which is totally cool. David Levy was there. David Eicher could not make it, sadly, on that particular event, but he'll be back next Global Star Party. And Deepti Gautam was also there. She hadn't been on in a while, and so it was nice to hear her talk. Not only to give her presentation, but she said this beautiful poem, which I'm hoping to get a copy of. She's done two poems so far about the universe, and it's very cool. The theme last Global Star Party was personal discoveries, and it's something that all astronomers go through. It doesn't have to just be astronomy, but you could be having personal discoveries through a lot of things. Birding, for example, these kinds of things. But it's that kind of connection that you get with nature, and where that you're in an activity where you're learning something new, and so the discoveries that people make in astronomy, like the first time they see Saturn's rings, or the first time that they see the globular star cluster M13, that's a discovery for them. And that rush, that feeling, is something that's very, I think important to people in their lives, that they have, their lives aren't dull, that they're exciting, and that they're learning something new, just like when you were a child, And so I did ask one time Carolyn Shoemaker. Carolyn Shoemaker's discovered dozens of comets. I can't remember how many asteroids are discovered by her, but I was at Palomar Observatory with her at the 18-inch Schmidt camera. And it's at that observatory where they discovered Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. So David Levy and the Shoemakers were there. And so I had a chance to ask her. I said, what is it like? What's that feeling like when you discover, a new comet? And basically she said, it's like the first time that you saw, and she used the Saturn as an example. She said, "You remember that feeling?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "That's what it feels like to discover a comet too." So there's an aspect, this psychology or this adventure when you uncover something and make that personal discovery for yourself is very, very important, and it's fuel to keep going on your journey. So I'm going to we're going to check in with Annie Scarbrough, and she will give us the lowdown of what's going on with the Explore Alliance.
Well, there's quite a few exciting things. I personally think going on with the Explore Alliance. I had the opportunity to talk to a gentleman this last week that told me a little bit about what his outreach is, and I was just absolutely floored. And so I'm hoping that he will be able to come on our show and talk a little bit about what he does. I really don't want to go into that because I want it to be a surprise, because I think it's pretty amazing. It gave me the opportunity to see that ambassador side and offer that to him of Explore Alliance, and just how great it is to offer our community the education, that educational outreach, not just to people that you meet on the street, but you can go into facilities that you would never even dream of and be able to have an outreach. It really, really blew my mind. But this week I've been mainly working on just membership verification and just making sure that everybody's memberships are up to date. And, I'm not even done yet. I'm going to say we probably have almost 800 or 900 members with the Explore Alliance side. That's just not platinum members, but that's also our legacy side. And so we have a lot of people out there that are learning and educating those around them and wanting to know what Explore Scientific is doing, and they want to know more. And so, and that's not just for Explore Scientific products. That's just in general. They want to know more about astronomy and what we're doing. And so,
Right.
it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat to have that door in that world open for me personally. I'm excited to hear more of those amazing stories that people are just their outreaches that they're doing. And so it's pretty amazing. This week we have, I'm excited. This week we have On the Wing. We have a new show that's going to be coming up. And so I think that's great. I'm excited to see how our birding show is going to go, and just see what that opens up to our members and just our community in general. And so it's going to be pretty exciting. There's some exciting things going on. So,
Good.
but yeah.
That's great.
So, yep. So
Wonderful. Yeah. So, this new show called On the Wing will feature a guy named Dan George. Dan George was the guy that started the Bosch and Lomb Birding Council. I think maybe back in the 1980s. He worked for Zeiss. He worked for Mead Instruments. He worked for Bushnell, Bosch and Lomb, of course, and he knows a lot about birding. He's also, the guy's a hoot. He's funny, and we've been friends for a very long time. So we're looking forward to that new program coming on. We showed a little clip here of a video a NASA video showing migratory birds. And that is the subject that Kent wants to talk about. We've been getting these fantastic images from this gentleman named Sheldon Faworski. And Sheldon's been using an Explore Scientific ED80 telescope and getting some incredibly beautiful and sharp, razor sharp images. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kent.
Okay, Scott. Hi, everybody. Have I shared my screen?
Yes, you have.
Okay, so many of these are pictures of migratory birds. I threw in a couple more. I've got like 8 or 9 photos, but this is with I believe he uses an ED102, correct?
ED80.
ED80. This is with an ED80. And, you know, he doesn't treat it like it's not a handheld camera. He's got it on a tripod. He pre-focuses at spots where he sees birds wanting to be at. And then he becomes a hunter, if you will. And he just sits there and waits for birds to land. And if you look closely at this picture, there's a couple of clues. Like if you can see my mouse right up here, he's cut off this branch right here. He's also cut off a branch or two right down in here on this crepe myrtle. And so he's created this area right here to give himself a clear shot of where, and created this spot in this crepe myrtle where he knows this birds are going to want to land. And I suspect, you know, being an Oriole, he probably has oranges or grape jelly out. And those, if you want to attract Orioles in migration period in April, March, April, and into May, put out orange halves, orange slices, grapefruit, grape jelly, and the birds just flock to them. And, you know, I've seen pictures around here of people with 20 and 25 different species of Orioles, not cookies with cream in the middle, but birds, you know, on their feeders getting, you know, grape jelly or stuff. So he builds his opportunity, and there's no telling how long he waited for this bird to land to fire off however many shots he fires off with. Come on.
I'm just astounded by the, you know, there is absolutely no color fringing or anything. It's like just incredibly crisp.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so this is an enlargement. You know, I mean, it focuses critically, he pre-focuses on a spot, and he's guessing where the bird's going to be. This technically is slightly out of focus. You know, if you could do
Really? I mean, look at his eyelids. Okay.
Yeah, it could be.
And then you see the tiny hairs on them.
Yeah, you see if they're hairs or whatever that little rolling is, but down here in the breast, Cameron.
What's that?
I thought you said something. Down here in the breast, these little pieces of the feather are just fantastic, and the shading is just astounding. And, you know, this is an enlargement of the previous picture I just made. It's, you know, because the depth of field here is probably a couple of millimeters. So, I mean, the precision guessing where, you know, because you go back to this picture, you know the bird's going to be standing on this, and you know the bird is a couple inches thick. So you have to try and pre-focus a couple of inches in front of, you can't focus on this stick because the depth of field is so narrow that you've got to pre-focus, you know, at some point right in front, and then just go with it. So
I think, Kent, you're right. I think it looks like it's focused on the wing, and then the beak is a little bit out of focus, I can see. And then of course the tail, but it really centers on that. But what's amazing is, you know, I just want to highlight on this picture, and just also when I had my 80 before, for birding, it's almost like you're looking at birds with a microscope, because like a low powered microscope, because you're going to get closer to that than you'll ever go, right, in person. So it's a wonderful experience. It's kind of like you're zoomed right in beyond. It's not even a telescopic experience. It's almost like a microscopic, because you're seeing the feathers and everything. It's really neat.
Yeah, you know, in a sort of a microscopic view. I mean, when I blew it up like I did, that's a I mean, you're getting to microscope level, low power microscope level stuff. So an orchard Oriole, a beautiful. These are males, obviously. This is a little bit easier for him to focus on, and I should have blown this one up instead. But if you look over here on the right, this is dead sharp where this branch is. And I'm sure he focused on this branch where the feet are. And, you know, half an inch of depth of field covers it. But look at the detail in that eye right there. And, you know, can't blow this up. But this is just a beautiful picture. I'm glad because, you know, during the wintertime, he had some tremendous pictures, but he had snow on the ground almost all the time. And cloudy. He finally is getting more colorful backgrounds and better sunlight, because everything was just real flat cloud lighting that caught, I mean, beautiful pictures, but the colors really pop in these. So this is one of my favorite birds, a rose-breasted grosbeak.
Wow, look at that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
So, I mean,
amazing.
That's-
That's
And these are, I mean, birds are the dinosaurs, right? That still live among us,
Totally.
right?
Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you notice, this branch has been pruned back to create an attractive spot for the birds to land. So you don't notice these details until you start looking at it. But Sheldon makes his own luck. He has skills, he has equipment, he has patience and a lot of time on his hands because this is at his house. But he still goes to the effort of, okay, they like to perch here, so I'm going to make it even more attractive than it was before, to give himself the opportunity to take these fantastic pictures. I blew this one up a little bit. Again, you can see it's focused on the feathers on the
Wow.
white part over here are just fantastic. You can see all the little different pieces. Again, you can see the little wrinkles in the
eye.
around the eye.
Yeah, you can see his iris really detailed
Yeah, you
too.
can see his iris has detail in it. It's just
Incredible.
incredible.
So what's Sheldon? Now, by the way, let's just talk about Sheldon a little bit. Sheldon is an astrophotographer. Makes great images. He and Sean Walker at Sky and Telescope magazine are old buddies, and they share equipment, they share techniques and that kind of thing, and they've been at it for a long time. Sheldon started appearing under Faworsky Instruments back, I think, in the 1960s or 70s in Sky and Telescope magazine. He worked for American Science Center. He worked for Celestron for a long time. He worked for Meade Instruments for a long time. He ran his own business with his son for a while. He still has a machine shop. He loves optics and loves making things, but he loves the birds too. And we get new bird shots from him almost every day. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And it shows that your equipment isn't just good for looking at the Orion Nebula, over Cameron's shoulder. It's good for a lot of other stuff too. I don't think people think about it, but it would be interesting we may have to get Ross or Chuck, two of our new customer service reps. We've hired 2 new CSRs in the past couple of weeks. Both of them are astrophotographers. So we now have 3 practicing astrophotographers who do it on a regular basis. He's working on learning some stuff. So that gives us a lot of horsepower in customer service to really up our game in astrophotography and helping our customers. May have to get them to go and try and shoot some birds somewhere just to see what they can do with their dedicated astrocams, to see if it's even possible to do something goofy like that.
Right.
So here's a red-breasted nuthatch. Cool little birds. You see them upside down a lot. Once you learn their distinct sound, you can hear them like they have a very unique sound that not a lot of other birds sound like nuthatches. And, notice the beak here and how it's almost like a drill. And notice the grosbeak here, hence the name grosbeak. Grosbeaks crack open nuts and take bites of stuff, whereas nuthatches pound things open. And there are more than just one nuthatch. Here's a white-breasted, not grosbeak. Golly, I didn't change it. This is a white-breasted nuthatch, on the end of a stump. Beautiful little bird. Again, the fine detail. You can see right here, one little tiny feather sticking out. And there's another one right here. Just the detail is just truly astounding. And then a picture, a bird that's often, people don't think about shooting them because it's not one of the beautiful species. But here's a red-winged blackbird, just a beautiful bird. The shimmering black and that red and yellow, in the wing is just almost the orange up around where the black is. I find that just a beautiful bird.
It can't, what I also think is amazing about these photos is that they not only are beautiful, but it also makes you think of how it would feel to touch them. Some look really soft and some look really silky. And so it just gives you a different type of sense than just a visual sense. I think that's really neat.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. It almost does convey a feeling of touch, of a silky smoothness. That's a very good observation.
You really get an idea of the texture. Now you just need to have the music, or not the music, their bird songs with the picture.
I
love the red-winged blackbird. It's a beautiful sound.
It is. It's a very beautiful sound. If I would have thought about it, I could have gone to the Cornell Ornithology Lab and downloaded all their songs and put them in here to loop on each one of these slides. Yeah, I'll do that next time if I have time.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Cameron, to have the song as well, because some of these songs are just beautiful, and I know there are segments of the birding population who memorize the songs of the birds and go out to identify the birds just by their songs. And many times, even though they may see it, they can't get a good enough view, but their song is the giveaway that it's this bird, not this very, very similar looking bird. The dedication of that craft, like any other craft, is spectacular. To become that familiar, to be able to identify birds, not just, most people can identify a robin and a cardinal and things like that, but to go out and identify, somewhat rare, even rare birds by their songs, just astounding. And then the ever popular,
look at that thing,
red-headed woodpecker. I had this on before, but I think it's a beautiful bird. Fantastic. If you want to have red-headed woodpeckers, there is absolutely one prerequisite. You have to have a lot of standing dead timber. So if you own woods and you go through and cut down all the standing dead timber because you don't want it to fall, you're not going to have red-headed woodpeckers, because they must have standing dead timber for cavity nesting and for hiding nuts and, their life cycle. It's a requirement. Many birds are that way. They have specific requirements. There was some person here yesterday on Facebook that posted something. They had armadillos, and they, had tired of battling them. What can they do? And a bunch of people jumped in, spray your yard for grubs. And I replied back along the lines of, I've become a whole lot more accepting of things like that, because we live in the woods where the animals are. And I like fireflies a lot. I like roly-polies. They're cool. I like the stuff that lives in leaf and duff. And, I like birds. I like birds that eat bugs. And
bats.
I like bats. I took pictures of bats. I was in Mountain View, Arkansas last weekend, and which is a town up in the Ozarks, and the Ozark Folk Center's there, and they keep the old ways. And on the square in front of the courthouse, they were playing, old time and country music, some bluegrass. And I took pictures of some bats flying around overhead because, I love bats. And,
and Arkansas has a huge bat. We've got this bat it looks like a fox flying. And you'll see them sometimes flying around, lit up light poles and stuff like that. And I think that I'll have to pull down some images of this bat so people will understand what we're talking about. But this bat has a wingspan of more than 14 inches. It's huge. It's huge. I think it's like second or third largest bat in the world. Lives here in Arkansas.
Get that caught in your hair, huh? Yeah, right, Annie, get that caught in your hair. That'd be brutal. So anyway, it's just, that's my plea to, I don't, if you like all those things, you have to put up with the things that they live with. And
Sure.
if you're going to have birds and fireflies and all the other denizens of the forest, because you live in a forest or you live in the prairie, you have to come to terms with that. Might mean you have armadillos. And this quest, I saw a paper a few years ago that monoculture, you don't think about your yards as being bad for the environment, but a monoculture yard takes up more space than agriculture does. I mean, it's sort of then it was an astounding study. And to have that monoculture yard, meaning one type of grass, you have to use all sorts of fertilizers, all sorts of chemicals. You have to kill the dandelions. You have to kill. And if you like bees, do you like honeybees? Yeah, we all like bees and honeybees, right? Then don't kill the dandelions in your yard, because dandelions and white clover are constant all year long food sources for honeybees. That's the environmentalist in me coming out. And Scott, you talked about birds and mammals feeding on insects, in a lot around a light. There's a light pollution term for that, or an ecological term for that. It's called a light trap. And those bugs, instead of going about their happy, merry lives, doing whatever it is they do, get attracted to that light and die in that light. And you can go out anytime after,
It's
in the morning.
Graveyard of.
It's a graveyard of bugs. And there are people who go out looking for beetles and stuff, big scarab beetles and things under streetlights. And it's amazing the bugs they find, the critters. And each light kills thousands a night, and multiply that by how many lights, and it's a staggering impact on the environment. That gets back to light pollution and the right amount of light at the right time when it's required. And that's it. And football stadiums are going to be lit up on fall nights, but they turn off. But how many bright lights stay on all night long for no reason? And literally keep those insects right there all night long and don't go on with their lives. So there you go. I'm done with birds. That was pretty cool video you got, Scott, about making the wetlands.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's an effort underway now to have big cities in the migration paths of the birds turn out their lights during all the big tall buildings, turn off as many lights as possible during the migration, so birds don't get either disoriented or just fly into the side of the building and go smack, and get killed by the skyscrapers. That's becoming more of a thing, and you hope that kind of thing continues. And if they could live without all those lights on all night long for 3 or 4 weeks in the spring and fall, well, why not the rest of the year too, right?
Right. That's right. Excellent. Well, that gives you a little taste of what our show On the Wing will be like, with the exception that we'll have Dan George on with us, and so Kent will be collecting images and stuff from our customers and contributors, and we'll get more and more into the to the avian world, because it's a whole universe in itself. So very, very cool. Thank you, Kent, for putting that together. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go into a little intermission as we get ready for Camstronomy. Annie, did you have any other final comments you wanted to add before?
No, I don't have anything.
Really. I've got something for Annie.
Okay.
A couple of times today, I'll give a shout to her. A couple of times today and yesterday, she's been working with customers who have had issues to get them enrolled in the Explore Alliance program. Right. Because, they don't have a warranty, they didn't register their scope. So they had the limited 1-year warranty. And after that, they don't have the warranty. And so she's working on them, getting them enrolled and explaining the benefits. And she's been doing a bang up job. Kudos.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie.
Yeah.
All right. There's a comment here. I will read a couple of comments before we go to this little intermission here. Book Davy says red-winged blackbird just has that shoulder patch. It gets redder as the summer comes on in. The bit of yellow is early. Also, Book is a birder for sure. I would say that there's a lot of amateur astronomers that love birding. You know, one that I know for sure is the guy that does all that solar outreach. Steve Ramsden is actually better known. I mean, he's famous for his solar astronomy outreach, but he is much more well known as a birder. And so, you know, I hope to get him on the show and to talk about his, observations of birds and what it's like to be, kind of a world-class birder as he is. Yeah, I think that's all I had to add right there. We will go to a break and we'll come right back with Cameron Gillis with Camstronomy. So stay tuned.
All right. All right. This time I waited for it.
Did you wait for it? It's great.
I waited for it. Thanks a lot, Ray. Thanks a lot. But okay.
I love doing the
All
solar
right. So
panels. It's fun.
yeah,
Fun. Yeah.
it's fun. It's a nice, actually, as I watch that, I feel like I do when I'm observing
Yeah.
and recording, and it's that meditative experience, and the music, of course, it just adds to that. But just that feeling of just soaking in the universe and just like letting your mind wander. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful feeling. So I
Yep.
think you really captured that well. Thanks a lot. So let me share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, so this week, well, I got a lot of updates, but what I'm going to do is I want to create a bit of a structure to our discussions here, because this is a huge effort, but I want to make sure we do it in a nice digestible chunks. And I when I was first doing these episodes, of course, there was a lot of new stuff, and I was excited about packing that all in, and I still want to give updates, but we have lots of time to be able to enjoy it and do it in comfortable levels. So with that in mind, I'm going to create a structure so that I'll give you an update on my sky survey first of all. So right now, I've logged almost 3,000 observations, because last night was a great night here in Seattle. I actually did 105 observations in Ursa Major. So everyone knows there's loads of galaxies in Virgo, Coma Berenices, and Canis Venatici, but they're all neighbors to our friendly Ursa Major, which is a huge constellation. So for those of you in the northern latitudes, there's a lot of beautiful gems in Ursa Major. Quite a lot of bright galaxies, actually. It's just like Virgo, though, it's and also because it's spread out, it's overwhelming if you're trying to just dive in. So I want to kind of create a something that is more approachable
Yeah.
so as we go through. But I was really having a fun time, and found some nice little nuggets. I won't share that today because, again, what I want to do is I want to show you my visual observations, because I do that first. And then after that, I'm going to follow up with smartphone images. And then I also have recently acquired an astro camera, the 294 MC. It's not the cool camera. It's the MC, because I wanted the lighter one. And that will just allow me to go deeper and also have ultimately multiple views of the same object through different telescopes and such. So what I was able to do, though, as far as equipment, is I was able to get both of my mounts who are on Wi-Fi. I actually managed to use them as station mode instead of direct connect to my tablet. I got them connected to my home network. And the beauty of that, and this is a recommendation for anyone, if your home network isn't strong enough, just buy a Wi-Fi hub and make it an astronomy controller hub. Because what happens is, if you connect your devices, all you need to do is you turn on your mounts, it will automatically connect to your home network. And then all you need to do is on your tablet, you can stay connected to the internet, which is beautiful. And at the same time, it will find the mount on the Wi-Fi network, and you can connect and disconnect with different devices, and you won't drop your you won't lose your calibration. So for example, what was happening with my direct connection with my Celestron Wi-Fi is sometimes it would drop, and then I'd have to do a whole 3-minute 3-star align again every time. But now
That's a pain. Yeah.
it's a real pain. So now if there's a dropout, what tends to happen, it's quite robust. The mount to the Wi-Fi network is very robust. But if your tablet connection or whatever drops or whatever, you can just reconnect and bang, it automatically zooms in and centers the object as if you've already recalibrated. So it's really nice. And that actually happened to me last night. When you're starting to go through for a couple hours and doing these observations, the last thing you want is an interruption with a connection. So when it happened, I was able to easily just reconnect and continue my session. So that's a little tip for anyone out there. And then the next stage of that is I already talked about TeamViewer. We'll get back to that more in the future, but basically the TeamViewer allows me to do everything inside, which is great with a smartphone. But with the ASI Air Pro, what I learned is, sorry, I'm gonna go in on this little tangent for a bit before we get in, is the ASI Air Pro actually has two different modes. You can do the station mode or direct connect, but it has both 2.5 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. You can only connect to the home network with the 2.5. Problem with that is the 2.5 is really slow. So what happens is I got it connected and it was really good as far as the functionality. And when I was in a good signal strength inside, it was going to be, oh, this is pretty beautiful. I can do my ASI Air Pro the same way I do my TeamViewer on my smartphone. However, when I actually set it up outside and tried to do that, connect to the ASI Air Pro on my computer, what happened is the connection was so bad that there's just too many things on the 2.4 network that are shared. And it basically, when you're even trying to focus on a star, it has to download 24 megabyte files, because that's the format, TIFF files. It does that every single time. And so if you're doing like trying to center and do alignment through your astro camera, it just is impossible. Yeah, you're asking a lot, and it's basically, it just kills it. So a little tip to avoid anyone's frustration is I kind of did a hybrid approach where I still go outside. And you put it in 5 gigahertz direct connect with your ASI Air Pro. Another alternative is you can plug in a dongle into the Ethernet port, which I haven't done, and then that will give you, because a 5 gigahertz, boy, it works beautifully, and you can actually do half a second updates. It will go boom, 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 and you can actually do when you're centering objects, or if you're focusing on a star to get your focus. You can actually get updates every half a second, which is quite nice. But that only can be done if it's the direct connect. So that's just a little tip. So anyhow, let's get into the sky series. So what I've done is I've logged 105 observations, and then this is a little preview. I've created my little imaging list here. If you recall, last week we started with Needle Galaxy, and then we started working our way down here. And I'll be more structured. I'll go constellation by constellation as we go through this, and I'll collect the images, and we'll. I figured that a good amount to cover every week is about 10 objects. That gives us a nice satisfaction, and without getting overwhelming. And so with that in mind, we've covered all the way down to NGC 5701. So these objects here, and then these ones, and then we'll cover these ones here on the far eastern side of Virgo and into Serpents today. So if I go, actually, let me just show you what I've done. Is here's of course my sky survey. This is the best and brightest, which, by the way, if I look at the observing lists, best and brightest is almost at 700 now. So I've added a couple more from Ursa Major. I still need to, out of those 105 that are in Ursa Major, if I scroll here, you'll see that there's a big hole still over here. I need to add, from the survey last night, I have to go through and comb through and identify the best and brightest out of these guys. Once I've done that, that will all be populated, and I'll be well over 700 for sure. So I'll try to get that done before the next episode. In the meantime, let's go to these guys. So let's go back to the slides. Okay. So again, here's the equipment that I used. I used the 62 degree 26, giving out my maximum field of view, and the phone adapter, our tablet. But this time, like I said, I connected, instead of a direct connect, I got the Sky Safari and my mount connected to my home Wi-Fi, which it makes it a lot more robust and nicer. And then I had my S8 strapped to my phone. So here, I'm going to skip through these ones. Actually, I'm going to put it into this mode. What I've done is I realized the last time I shared, I didn't do any image processing. As a result, when you actually look at this live stream, some of the objects don't pop out very well. So it's like you're really squinting. So what I did is, for example, on this, you'll notice it's a very light blue. I basically blew them out. And the way I did it is I went to the picture and I did one modification in PowerPoint where I literally went corrections, and I went to here, brightness. This is, of course, doing it twice, so that you don't want to do that. But I went brightness plus 40 and contrast plus 40. So it's not a pretty picture, but the nice part is it does the job as far as pulling out the visual plate salve of all the stars. And it also makes it more clear when I'm walking through and showing you the objects. Obviously, you can spend more time to make it look nicer, but for the purposes of this, we can at least show the objects. So, now, for example, like these objects, it's much more clear where the galaxy is, right? You can very easily see compared to previously, it was too much dulled out. So with that being said, we actually made it all the way to 5701. So if we go back here, 5701. So we were working our way to the east. So now we're going to go to 5651. So the next one is intermission. 56. So now let's put this in presentation mode again. Okay, so 5651. Let's look at what it is. Go back to here. So 5651. It's a magnitude 10.9 galaxy. And if I zoom in on it, I set the time so it's the same, so it will be easy to. As you can see from the visual plate solve, you have these two stars here. They're all nicely matched up. And then you have a nice little patch there. It doesn't have a defined core, but you can see it has definitely a distinct shape. If we go to 5746, zoom back out again. 5746. This one's neat. This one's quite edge on. And you can actually see that even in the smartphone image. You can start to see the edge on characteristics here.
Oh yeah.
And it's quite
you see
quite
the
large.
central bulge.
Yeah, you can see the central bulge. And I think the other thing, Scott, I'd like to highlight is what this exercise, what we're doing here is also good training for when you are doing this yourself, to be able to really train your eye what to look for and how to spot different features for these very faint objects.
Sure.
And get the maximum out of what you have. And here, this is a small guy. 5740 popped in. And if I click, let me just change the scope display here. I have 13 millimeter Nagler, that's why it's. So let's switch it to the 26. That's more like it, yeah. So this is 11.8, so quite a bit fainter, but still within reach, and it's small enough that you can see it's pretty well defined. Now move on to 5775.
Okay.
So 5775 is also an edge on, and you can see it's quite. I didn't quite get it. You can see there's a little streak here.
Yeah.
That's so you can just barely make it out, and then it looks like this one here. You can't see it very well through the video, but I did the best I could to stretch it. There's a tiny bit of a brightening there. Oops, it's more pronounced. Sorry, it's more pronounced when you obviously visually see it. This is another interesting thing, is that there is little subtleties about averted vision versus a smartphone. A smartphone is just an absolute scientific experiment or equipment, and it's going to take what it's going to take. But the eye is very interesting. It can actually sometimes eke out fainter objects, maybe not the detail that a smartphone can, but it will actually detect the patch. For example, I'll be able to. But this is an example of that.
5774 and the 5775 region, that's 70 million light years away.
Yes.
Really distant,
Yeah, and let's actually, that's a good point, Scott. Let me add a little more color. That's a good idea. I can go object info, and that, yeah, it tells you 95 million light years for 5740.
For 5740, right? And
Yeah,
this is all Virgo cluster galaxies, right? I mean,
yeah, these are
huge.
on the eastern quadrant of Virgo. Exactly, it's huge. I mean, this is another patch, and actually that brings up another thing. Let me just zoom out for kicks here. If you go over here, as I was going through this, then you go to Cobra Bernicius, right?
Right.
And we already know there's a lot of cluster, but look at this.
Oh, yeah.
In here. This is I'm gonna take a picture of this guy.
Yeah.
This will be really fun. This will be like a little mini deep field. So that will be really fun. So I'll do that in the future. So continuing. Okay, and then 5792. Let's go to 5792. A little bit of a pause here. 5792 has a little star off to the side, and you can see there it is. It's touching right there, and then you can clearly see a very distinct oval that's just touching that star with a brightening.
Oh, right.
Yeah. 5813. So 5813. I'll go back up here. So there's that bright star up there. And then if you can see, this has a very bright central core, which is interesting. It's almost stellar-like. Sometimes you get that where it almost looks like a fuzzy star. It's very concentrated, but the outer arms are actually kind of diffuse. But you can see the nice visual place. This one's a nice one because it's kind of pretty because it's nestled between these three stars as a triangle, so you can easily find this guy right between there as another fuzzy star. 5831. This one here looks like it's kind of face on. Yeah, so this is almost a face on. I'm sure if we take a longer exposure, we might even see some spiral arms coming out of this guy. But you can definitely see the characteristic bulge with the gradually dimming to the spiral arm area. So I look forward to taking, we can dive into this one further in the future. But very, very easy to spot, which is nice. Sometimes the face-ons are really difficult because they have a if you're lucky, they have a defined core, but then you don't see any of the spiral arms. They're just too faint. Oops. 5838. Let's go back out. 5838. This has a bright star again that you can reference. And there's that bright star. It's actually a little double pair. This one's a nice one. You can see it's very, very characteristic. You can even, I don't know if this is just the pixelation, but that might even be a dustling, kind of like Andromeda, kind of cutting into the bulge of the central core. But you can start to see the nice elliptical shape. This is a nice one.
This was discovered by William Herschel.
5838. Let's take a look. Yeah. So we go to 5838. That's a 10.8 magnitude galaxy. And if we go to the
discovered in
information,
1786 by William Herschel.
You have more information. Yeah, this one is, but this one here is 67 million light years away.
Yeah,
so a little bit closer. Yeah, it's amazing. So you look at them and they could be looking the same brightness, the galaxies, and some could be brighter, but they actually might be further away. So we have it's really neat to get the depth as well. So this is a nice one coming up, this triplet. If I go here, there's a nice grouping of galaxies. And if you look at some of the fainter ones, so 5845 on the right here, it has a very stellar type of nucleus. So let's zoom back in. So 5845, that's its magnitude 12.3. So even though it's fainter, right, it's below 12th magnitude, it's small enough that it's concentrated enough that you can actually pick it out pretty easily. And just let's take a look at the information on that guy. So that guy is 110 million light years away. So he's really far.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you go to the next one, this is quite a bit brighter, 5846, magnitude 10.1. That's 80 million light years away, so a bit closer. And then finally, this 5850, 11th magnitude, 130 million, even further. So this is actually interesting because this is in between the brightness. It's brighter than the faintest one, but it's actually the furthest away. So if we actually go now to the PowerPoint, you can just see it looks like even a double knot. I'm not quite sure what if that's what that really is. If we take a longer exposure, we might get more out of that. Might be just a very faint star, but clearly there's a fuzzy nucleus in there. And then and of course this guy 5846 is quite bright, nicely, and nice about 5846 is, if I zoom in, actually zoom in here a bit. I'm wondering if you can, this is actually a spiral arm structure. I'm curious about that. That's where the fun part about this again is it's just like aperture fever in a way. You can kind of have imaging fever.
Absolutely.
You start to see a little more detail. It's like, oh, I want to get a better picture, And but that's all part of it, So your smartphone gets you really good, and depending on the level, you can get a lot out of it, and then that will just help your technique, and then get improved as you get better equipment. So so this one is a curious one. I'm very curious about that one. In fact,
there's some comments here. Let's see. We have Lubo in China has been weighing in here. Is using similar equipment to you.
Yes.
Lubo says an idea for anybody interested. Make a main imaging camera with 2 extra small sensors on top and on the bottom for the main sensor for auto guiding with ASI system built in. There's been cameras like that. At Santa Barbara Instruments Group made a camera similar to that. We don't build cameras ourselves, but I have people on staff that have some of that experience. But right now, that's not where we're at. Pekka says it's unimaginable that we can take pictures of objects so far away. If you really begin to think deeply, the distance, you'll get a headache. Normal, in quotes, the normal street person can't think in terms of light speed and distances, which dominates in deep space. So we should be happy. We should be so happy to be able to catch something, and that ourselves. And that we do not demand too much of ourselves as individuals.
Yes, that's awesome. Well said, Becca. That's really nice. Yeah, I think that's the truth. And as you go through this, you're like I said, and this is something that Jason Gonzalez shared a little bit. You have to be burnout. You have to be careful about that because
it's something I've noticed. That's the reason why I talked to Jason about it, because I've seen several really, great, top performing astrophotographers burn out, where they just got to get away from it, after a while.
Yes.
But
yes.
So
yeah,
that's the reason why I was asking for what does he use to balance himself, and he just
Yeah.
goes to different things, and that
Yes.
keeps him balanced.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why, Scott, at the beginning of this show, and what I'll do is we'll just make this in bite size because it's the journey, right? Let's make
It's
sure
a
we're
journey.
enjoying the
That's
journey
right.
and
You should
just
enjoy
pace
every
ourselves.
minute of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to really go back to this one. I just love this galaxy here because
Oh,
look at that.
which galaxy is this again?
Okay, so this is 5850 and 5846A. So this is almost like an M51 Whirlpool galaxy, I believe. So let's actually take a look and go into the details here. Object info. Okay, so a companion which appears as a faint stellar patch west of that. So if I look at one thing I can do is I can go show DSS image, which of course I'm going to get my own. So this is it right here. So so it's not as, this is actually the one with the spiral arms, as we
Right.
suspected. That was a double, but this one is just a elliptical. But you can see the other one is another patch. So these two are like this. So basically,
Is it two
going back,
galaxies, or is that a background
this is
star, or
two.
what is that?
These are two galaxies. So if you
Okay.
again do the visual, these are this is a triangle of stars. Let's do the visual plate solve. So here's your triangle of stars
Okay.
right above. So now, and then if you look at this star and that star, that's these guys here. And then basically, so now this here, right there, if I zoom in, that's your main galaxy, and then the companion galaxy right there, A.
Got it.
So the right there is A.
I
Yeah.
see.
So it almost looks like these are blown out, of course. So what I intend
Yeah.
to do, obviously, is the DSS are good, but they have some limitations. I mean, it's good stuff. But what I want to do is obviously in my survey is have other ones that you can pick it out, more visually. So yeah, and then so let's go back. So I really like this grouping of three galaxies. It's kind of fun. So let's go back out.
Very cool. Yeah, this that 5846 is located. It says it's located at a distance of 90 million light years,
Wow.
and was
Yes.
discovered by, again, William Herschel. That guy was picking off all these galaxies and
Yes.
taking
Let's go to
taking names and
5, 8.
applying numbers. Yeah,
Absolutely, and he was on a mission. He was
on a mission. That's right.
That's really cool. That's really good. So here's 5854. So you have a nice string of stars that points directly to the galaxy. Here you go. And then what's nice about this one, you can very nice sliver. You see that nice edge on with the central bulge?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, you can actually pick it out. And as crude as this picture is, it gets the idea. So that's kind of nice. And then if we look at that guy's specs, see it's 11.8 galaxy, and that some edge-ons are actually quite diffuse. So when they talk about a magnitude, there might be a 10th magnitude edge-on, but it's really kind of fluffy, so it really dissipates, and it's very difficult to pick out. When you have these types of galaxies that are edge-on, though, they're nice because their magnitude is concentrated on a thin sliver, so you can actually have a very good contrast with the background, and so visually you can actually even pick out the sliver. So this is one of those types, really nice. So if you look at the information on that guy, yeah, there is 90. So it's averaging around 90 million light years away for most of these galaxies. Okay, let's zoom back out.
Yeah, that's a lenticular galaxy.
Ah, yeah. Here's another edge on 5864. 5864 is just up here. I'm going to zoom into that guy. And then if you look at this guy, again, you can see that characteristic edge on. So these two are actually, this is a smaller version. And if you look at the specs, it's 11.8 magnitude as well. But let's see the distance. It's 92. So these guys are like twins, almost the same size. And this guy's a little bit smaller physically. You can see from the Sky Safari. And you can also see in the between these, if I flip between this guy's a bit bigger compared to this guy. And they're very, very close, very close. Okay, 5869. Go to, where did he go? There he is, he's down here. 5869. So again, you look for the bright star and then go from there. And then it's off the screen here, but here it is. And you can see the pattern, okay. So there it is. And if you look, you can see just the oval shape. And I don't know if that's a dust lane blocking it. It's hard to tell, or an artifact, but you get the idea. It's a nice oval, very distinct, and it fits nicely with these this string of stars here. And,
Sure
and
does. It's beautiful.
Let's see the specs on this guy. He's a magnitude 12.1, 81 million. So see, he's fainter, but he's closer. So that's interesting. Okay, now the last object for today, M5. And oops, sorry, I got the wrong labeling here. This is M5. M5. Forgot to update the name. Put that into. Okay, now globular clusters actually turn out pretty nice in the smartphone. I'm very happy.
Yeah.
So you can see it actually is not bad. You know,
it's good.
You can get the, yeah, it's pretty good. And what's interesting there is you can start to see, even though this is an image, you can see these three stars, and these guys here, these three here. You can start to see the pattern emerging the same, and then you can actually get into the structure of the. And if I go to obviously this guy, he's within our galaxy. So if I go back to Sky Safari, there is another galaxy in the field, but we'll pick that off. See, that's a magnitude 15.9, so that will be a good challenge object for imaging to be able to see if I can pick that off with the right exposure in the future. That will be a fun one. But for now, it's a very bright. M5 is a nice globular cluster to look at in any scope. Highly recommended. And if I look at the information, this is quite a bit closer, of course, only 24,000 light years away. So obviously within our galaxy here. So that's the survey. And if I go, one thing I just wanted to, we talked about it in yesterday's, oops, I don't want to exit that. That's good. So this is our intermission. We'll continue the Sky survey next week. And but one thing I just wanted to give a preview. We talked a little bit about, of course, in last night's Global Star Party 48. But I got my new gear, and I've always had this f6.3 focal reducer. I've always kept that in my visual observing time. But what I found is that I prefer to, when it visually, I prefer to use native focal length of 2000 because I want less glass. When you're picking out faint galaxies, you don't want to have any glass. So I found out that the contrast and the higher power is better. So I actually didn't use. I tried to use this a couple of times, and I used it. You know, but it's after you get used to, you know, looking through a 13 millimeter Nagler, you know, 156 power, and you pick out galaxies, you know, 12 to 13th magnitude pretty nicely. Then you put this in there, and it's like, oh no, sorry, I'm just going to stick with native. But having said that, came extremely useful for my imaging, because with the imager, it acts as obviously a field corrector as well. It reduces the focal length to a really nice image scale, and it also there's a side benefit, is it acts as a sealant for the image train. So what you can do is you can unscrew your image train when you're switching from visual to imaging, and keep the sensor isolated from getting dust. So that's a little bonus, little tip
Yes.
that I realized. So that way you put in all your stuff. I'm going to put in a filter drawer that, you know, that's going to be closed for the most part. And but then this is what I have here. But what I learned also is that this is not enough for my image train. I've got a couple more adapters on the way to make sure it comes to proper focus. It's not ideal, but I did some testing of this, and I just wanted to show one set of pictures just for the audience here, and then this will be to be continued in the future. So I did a picture of Markarian's chain, and I took three shots. And again, I want to highlight that this is the scale that it actually took compared to, if I zoom back out, let me zoom back out here. I'm going to turn on my, here it is. Okay, let's go to the Markarian's chain. Over here, Central Virgo. Okay. So if you look at that size of that, let me just frame it. I should have been able to easily get this grouping here.
I see.
But if you look, it's a bit smaller. So if I put it like here, for example, this galaxy, you can see it, and the reason for that is because my image train is too short. So I was able to bring it to focus, but the image circle is reduced when you bring as you bring your instrument, your astro camera closer into the focal, your image circle gets smaller, right? And therefore your field of view gets reduced, and you have big netting. So that's basically what's happening right now. So in the future, I'll get the full image scale when I have the proper back focus lined up with my image train. With that being said, I took these pictures, and just as an experiment, and I was really thrilled, because if this is what I can do with just playing around with my first shot, I just love I love these edge-ons here with the modeling and then this spiral, this structure. I just love these, and then of course this edge-on. Some standard, we have some good old ellipticals, which are nice and bright, nice to look at, but I love the structure of these guys. And then you have the eyes down here with a little bit of spiral structure showing up here, and then of course these two. So, and then of course this set here, and some pretty faint galaxies in these pictures. So, and you can see there's some tracking errors and that, but the point is I'll perfect this, and I will get it more automated, so that basically that will complement the smartphone. I still want to do the smartphone because I really like the convenience. Like I told you, I was able to get that working with TeamViewer, and then it has that nice. If you go back to here, it has that nice through the eyepiece feeling, right? When you go through, you are actually looking through the eyepiece. So so that's the advantage of the smartphone. So I still want to do that, and it will be very good for our main survey. And then we'll get them. And then what I'll do is I'll complement that in the future, adding better quality, deeper field pictures with my astro camera. So that will make the sky survey even more cool.
Sure.
More fun for everyone.
More fun. That's right.
Yeah. So that's basically, yeah.
We have some questions and comments, it looks like here. Jim's Astro says, nice work, Cameron. Enjoyed your segment. Pekka says, keep it simple and fun to do. Of course, fully automated with remote system, as I and Jerry do with the MSRO. Of course, I also do visually with binoculars as well. Pekka does all kinds of different astronomy, which is really cool. Yes. Jeff Wise, I finally got a telescope set up, so now I can follow Cam's footsteps, baby steps maybe. Harold Locke, your concept of a personal reusable catalog is great, Cameron. That will be a lifelong aid. Jim's Astro says, would Would you get more detail if you used a stronger eyepiece with your smartphone pictures? Don't know.
Yes, that's, you know what, I definitely was thinking about that. I can definitely do that. And in fact, what I'd like to do on that note, to do that, I realized that the Negler is too wide a field,
Hmm.
so it's good, but I actually would like to get an Explorer Scientific, probably another 62-degree eyepiece with shorter focal length, so I can go to that higher power. Because with the smartphone, it's all about image scale, right? So if you can get that field of view, you don't have to worry about 82-degree, 110-degree field of view
That's
with
true.
smartphones.
Right.
You just need to have the image scale. So if you basically adapt it, I would probably do that. So at some point, Scott, we'll be talking. I'll be picking up one of those guys.
Oh, sure.
And then basically using that, and then yes, getting higher powered views, absolutely, to get more detail. That's a great idea. Yep.
Yep. Let's see. There was a question here. Let's see. Well, you just answered that about Gems Astro. Jeff Wise says your phone is limited to a 10-second exposure. Are there apps that you would be able to go longer? It seems like I downloaded an app that can take my iPhone to like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, I did some research on that. That's a very good question. And yes, when I played with my S8, I learned that there's apps that allow you to do all sorts of adjustments with ISO. You can go up to 3200 and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But those are because those are generic apps, and they will work with different phones. What's the limiting factor is your phone hardware. And unfortunately, I confirmed that the phone hardware for S8, you'll have to check your phone specs, because what will happen is the app may allow you to do that, but what will happen is it won't actually work at that higher level. It will just stop. It will cap
whatever
so,
the
example,
limit of your
whatever the limit
camera is.
So
that's it.
In the S8, the limit is 10 seconds and ISO 800. That's the best I can do. Now my S20, or my Note 20, I should say, which I using, I will start doing that as well too, because I found out I can do that with TeamViewer. The only problem with that one is it has artifacts. So what I can do is I can zoom in on that to take those artifacts out, but that allows me to go up to 30 seconds and 3200. That's why I was able to take some really nice pictures that I shared months back. And I still want to do that, but I wanted to, like I said, I'm looking for simple, because one thing I have to tell you is fiddling around with the smartphone to make sure that it has the right distance to the eyepiece and there's no artifacts and all that kind of stuff. You can spend like a long time just doing that and then not getting any observing or imaging in. So that's part of my equation, and I want to get to that sweet spot so that anyone who's wanting to do the same thing, they can do it with like minimum pain, right? I mean, it's because they're all tools, but just like any tool, there are certain optimum ways of using it, and so I think that, to answer the question again, coming back to the app, I did download those apps that allow me to give those flexibilities, but then I also confirmed that you'll have to check your smartphone for the limitations.
Interesting. Lubo in China wants to know, is it better to get an old DSLR than any new phone? The pixel size really matters a lot, and you could get a Nikon D5300, it looks like, with a flip out screen, really cheap, and many people have had them astro modified as well.
Absolutely, that's a great idea.
So many, Cameron.
Yeah, my take is a lot of people, anyone who already has a DSLR, it's a no-brainer. You definitely do that, and
Sure.
And then like you say, that getting a cheap one, that's totally it. The only reason why I didn't do that is because I knew I was going to go with the dedicated astro camera way, and I didn't. The DSLR is still a bulky piece of equipment. It's good, it's awesome, and it's, if you don't have anything, and you can totally do it. But I didn't want another bulky piece of equipment that I wouldn't get full use out of, because a DSLR can do a lot of things, right? So I'm just not, I don't take terrestrial photos with a DSLR. I've just used smartphones. In fact, I used to have digital cameras, right? The dedicated digital cameras back in the day. And then I ditched that when the smartphone got so good. I was like, hey, 90% of my pictures I take with my smartphone because it's convenient, right? So it's
Right.
really convenience. So yeah, I don't want to say no. I say that's a great idea, but the reason why I didn't do it is because bulk, and I was going to go with a dedicated astro camera anyhow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Mike Wiesner comments, increasing the magnification will perhaps dim the object too much for a smartphone camera. It'll depend upon the extent of the faint object.
Yes. In fact, like for example, this globular cluster M5, I would totally go higher power. I'd use a higher power eyepiece, and that would be no problem. But yeah, some of those fainter galaxies, to Mike's point, he's right on. You're not going to have a chance. It would be fun to try, though. I will try it when I have that, and I'll push it to the limits. And sometimes you'd be surprised. It all has to do with surface brightness. If you get something with enough definition, even if it's small and relatively faint, you still might be able to pick it out. So it will be fun. I'll figure that out.
Right. I think the main point, the thing that I find very interesting is, people using smartphones to do astrophotography in general. Yeah, you could go to a DSLR. There's a lot of other options that you might have, but good Lord, almost everybody has a smartphone, and so it's something that I get. That there, maybe another way to go is to buy a used DSLR or something along those lines. But, what you're demonstrating, Cameron, is that almost anyone, applying themselves with some fairly modest equipment can make some amazing shots with the smartphone and start sharing that experience with people on social media, like almost immediately. The smartphone's all wired for that, So, so that's what I find so cool about this.
Yeah, and another ulterior motive is, when I want to be able to maximize my comfort as I'm watching things. So I do my drive for automation in the KISS principle is to be able to get it so that I can actually spend time with my family on those evenings,
which is very important.
Which is really important.
You can get so absorbed into the technical aspects of it as you're trying to drive yourself that you come home from work and then they jump right into doing this, and it leaves a little time for anything else. So you have to take things in little bite-sized increments. And
that will avoid the burnout, right?
Once you have that, to avoid burnout, exactly, and to but to have also a skill level and a confidence level, so that when you do get that dedicated kind of equipment, it's not like this giant leap that you're having to take. Basically what you got to do. There'll be a little bit of a learning curve with the new piece of equipment, but it's not like starting all over again. Yes.
I just love. I'm as we're talking here, I'm enjoying the pattern recognition. What I really like is the pattern recognition of. You see these 3 stars here. You can see these 3 stars here. You
right.
can see these 3. I just love to be able to do that. And it's like, wow, it's just like, what you're capturing, what everyone has captured before, but you're doing it yourself. It's really fun. It's really nice. Yeah.
That it is.
Yeah.
Cameron, thank you very much. This was a very informative segment, and we look forward to you coming on next week. I want to remind everybody that next week, instead of our regular Tuesday Global Star Party, we're going to have a Wednesday Global Star Party. So that will be June 9th And we already have people signing up for it. So if you're listening, watching our program or whatever, and like to contribute to Global Star Party, get in touch with me. I'll give you. We'll go through Annie here, so you'll go through Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com, and she'll coordinate with me, and we'll get you on the program and set up the schedule. And until that time, you have anything
Thanks a
more
lot.
you'd like to add, Cameron, before we close out?
No, yeah, just thanks a lot, Scott, and it's really it's a real pleasure and an honor to be able to share this with this great group we have here. And
yeah, that's right.
It's
That's
nice.
right. We do have a wonderful audience, and so I guess it's so wonderful that occasionally we have somebody jump in to try to sell us something. So I try to get those guys off the chat as much as possible. So,
yeah, you're doing great. Doing great. Thanks, Scott.
That's right. Take care. Thanks again, Cameron. Take care.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye-bye. And good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Here's the Explore Scientific iAxos 100 equatorial tracker mount. We've got it mounted up here with a digital SLR that's got the dovetail plate here. We also have it kind of mounted on our extra heavy duty tripod. But this whole thing is operated remotely. You can see Kent's operating it with his Apple tablet here, but it'll run off a Windows tablet or an Android tablet. What do you like about this whole system, Kent?
I find it very intuitive. It's very quiet. Like any go-to system, there are things to learn.
Sure.
But once you learn those things, it makes it really easy to find stuff in the sky.
Sure.
Now, this is running our Explore Stars app. If you're going to do astrophotography, you need to be running it with a planetarium program hardwired to a computer.
That's right. So this runs wireless, wired, okay? It's super versatile. It not only has go-to capabilities, but you can also add a guide scope with an auto guider CCD type of camera onto it. So, and you know, the thing that you're going to really love about this is the price of this instrument, which will fit neatly into your budget, I'm sure. So, check it out. Look online. Check out the specs. Give us a call if you have any questions.
Thank you.
I was like, I don't.
No, you're
This
good.
is all new. This is all new to me. So
Yeah. They're enjoying having you on. So.
I'm glad. I'm glad. So. I don't know, probably 300 or 400 more invoices I gotta verify, but
Okay.
just trying to clean up those, and then hopefully I'll start